This is Real Estate Today, the #1 real estate show in America. Brought to you by the National Association of Realtors and its Realtor members in your neighborhood.
Welcome to Real Estate Today. I'm Stephen Gasquet, and I'm so glad you're with us today as we examine where we stand. A close-up look at the real estate in your life as America slowly pulls out of the pandemic. We'll look at the big questions. Will home prices continue to soar? Will mortgage interest rates remain low? Will home buyers ever get a break? And will sellers stop waiting and start selling? All that and much more is straight ahead on Where We Stand. But first, let's go to the Real Estate Today newsroom with Bill Thompson. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Stephen. What is the future of a nationwide eviction moratorium? A federal judge on May 5th threw out the CDC's nationwide moratorium, but the Justice Department has appealed that ruling. Seamus Roller, the executive director of the National Housing Law Project, told NPR.
The underlying ruling in this case is pretty weak, in my opinion, because Congress in December extended the CDC order. So clearly Congress thinks that the CDC has this authority.
That federal judge's ruling does not affect any of the various state moratoria on evictions. The latest measure of home price growth again reflects double-digit price gains in the month of March. The CoreLogic Home Price Index was up 11.3% year over year. The company says that not only was price growth in March twice what it was a year ago, but it was the biggest year-over-year gain in 15 years. Also, CoreLogic notes more than half of the homes sold in February sold at or above asking price, and that is a new high mark. Well, with home prices going through the roof and homes for sale as scarce as they have ever been, buyers can get discouraged. But relief may be on the horizon, says Realtor.com senior economist George Ratu.
First, bolstered by the Fed's continued purchases of mortgage-backed securities, interest rates remain favorable. Second, the results of a Realtor.com survey show that 1 in 10 homeowners plans to sell this year, with 60% of those looking to list in the next 6 months. Just as encouragingly, close to 2/3 of sellers plan to sell their homes at prices under $350,000, which would offer a tremendous boost to affordable housing for first-time buyers.
In that Realtor.com video, Ratu also points to numbers showing that the overall economy is showing signs of a strong recovery. Digital real estate transactions have revolutionized the industry, but the head of one major brokerage says digital will not replace person-to-person transactions. Keller Williams President Mark King says,
We learned through COVID, we're learning now that we're obviously going to head more into a virtual environment, but the need for that physical interaction has not gone away. Top agents still need a place to go and to collaborate and to do their work, to meet clients, to do those sorts of things.
King spoke in the Housing Wire podcast. Stephen, back to you.
Thanks, Bill. And now we have the latest information on the value of your home. The National Association of Realtors reports that home prices are now skyrocketing like never before, with 99% of the nation reporting year-over-year price gains and 90% reporting double-digit price gains. Overall, home prices in the United States increased 16% in the first quarter of 2021 compared to 1 year ago. It's great news, of course, for homeowners and home sellers, but for buyers, affording a home is getting harder and harder. Let's talk about NAR's quarterly Metro Price Report now with Lawrence Yun, the chief economist at the National Association of Realtors. Lawrence, thanks for joining us on Real Estate Today.
Oh, hello, Stephen. Thanks for having me on the show.
We are so glad you're here. So, Lawrence, what an amazing Metro pricing report showing that prices across America rose in 99% of measured metro areas. Tell us about that.
Well, not only that 99% are seeing a gain, but 90% of the markets are seeing double-digit price gain. The housing market is super hot at the moment. Multiple offers are very common. About 1/3 of the homes are being sold above list price. And consequently, the prices up 16% above 1 year ago, record high, fastest price appreciation.
And Lawrence, the median price is now $319,200, up 16.2% from the same time a year ago. So let me ask you, have you ever seen a metro pricing report like this?
Definitely not. This is quite a phenomenal situation, but it's a nationwide phenomenon. Some people say, can you tell me where the market is hot? My response will be pretty much everywhere across the country.
Oh, that is amazing. Well, Lawrence, even though those rising prices are really tough on buyers, just think of the home owners and the home sellers. They're loving these increases.
The typical equity gain is now reaching close to $30,000 over a 12-month time span. So just consider, someone who bought a home 1 year ago, they're suddenly $30,000 wealthier just by owning a home and the price appreciation. This is an average. I have heard stories where someone has gained $60,000 in a single year. Another person saying, well, it's only $10,000, but on average, $30,000. Those are substantial gains and certainly brings a lot of smiles for homeowners. And consequently, they may also begin to spend more into the economy, knowing that their housing is doing a lot of the savings for them.
Absolutely. So, Lawrence, real estate, as we all know, has been a shining light in the past year, as other parts of the U.S. economy had a tough time. And so now, overall, how is the U.S. economy doing?
The U.S. economy is almost back up to normal, meaning the total production of goods and services, 99% of the pre-pandemic level. So America one can say, is back to full capacity now. However, the job market is not. Job market is still down 5% from the prior peak. So we have fewer people actually producing more than before, but this is still a very good news for commercial real estate because commercial real estate needs a strong economy.
Absolutely, because as we know, Lawrence, in the last year, so many offices went empty, so many vacant hotels, so many shopping malls had to shut down. Commercial had a very difficult time. So, will it come back anytime soon?
Regarding the office space, it was underutilized during the pandemic, but many of the tenants, even though they were not showing up in office, they were still paying rents on time as the workers were working from home. The retail suffered because of the small businesses not getting the normal client flow, so that was difficult. But the industrial sector, essentially the warehouses, it actually boomed. And the prices were rising, the rents were rising, the occupancy level continuing to increase, leasing. So there was a different segment across the commercial. Apartment sector are now beginning to see almost a full bounce back after many renters essentially exited, but now the renters are coming back.
And so, Lawrence, one more question. As we all know, the biggest barrier to home ownership right now is the shortage of homes for sale. So, in the next few months, and say by the end of the year, will there be enough new home construction to meet the demand?
Unfortunately not. However, we are moving in the right direction. In 2021, for the first time in over 13 years, we are going to see home building activity, housing units surpass 1.5 million. So the short answer is we will still face housing shortage, but not as acutely as before.
Well, Lawrence, we certainly have covered a lot of ground today, and I want to thank you for being on the show and talking about not only the Metro Pricing Report, but also where we stand in real estate across America. Thank you.
Always my pleasure. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Lawrence Yun, the Chief Economist at the National Association of Realtors.
Real Estate Today where America's top producers talk real estate with you.
And now, buying and selling property in America. We all know that it's a solid seller's market. And if you're selling your home, you can expect it to sell fast and high as prices continue to soar. But what about the buyers? How can they ever get a house in such a competitive market? Do you really have to go to war, as in a bidding war? Let's talk about it now with a real estate professional. Joining us now is Donna Evers, broker-owner of Evers & Company Real Estate in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Evers & Company is the largest woman-owned and run real estate firm in the Washington metro area, with 4 offices and more than 100 agents. Donna has been helping buyers and sellers with their real estate needs for more than 30 years. Donna, welcome to Real Estate Today.
Thank you, Stephen.
You are so welcome. So, Donna, I think we all pretty much know the answer to this, but how's business in the Washington, D.C. market?
Yes, business is really outstanding. And one of the numbers that shocked me when I was going over this month's numbers for April was that the dollar volume of sales went up 88% over the dollar volume of sales in April 2020. Now, remember, that was a pandemic month where we were all sort of locked inside our houses. Not much went on then. But even with that, it's an astounding number. And we're just going to see, as far as I can see, for the foreseeable several months, we're going to see a boom market here, probably like we've never seen before.
That is amazing. So, Donna, I'd like to talk to you about buyers and sellers, beginning with buyers in today's market. Now, we all know that they have incredibly low mortgage interest rates in their favor, but they have a lot more challenges, too. Prices are up, not enough homes for sale, bidding wars. Donna, how on earth does a buyer win in today's market?
Well, get a very good agent, for certain, and someone who's going to be your faithful representative, who's going to sort of educate you about what you have to do to win. And it's very shocking to buyers to enter this market and understand all the things they're going to have to do to be able to simply buy a house. And, they're going to have to probably pay more than they wanted to, and they're going to have their home inspection ahead of time, and they're going to have to see if they can secure a mortgage to the extent that they don't feel they have to have many contingencies in connection with that. All of these things are kind of scary. And we never want to advise people to do anything that they're not comfortable with. But as time goes on and buyers begin to see, if I don't do some of these things, I'm never going to be able to buy anything. Mm-hmm. So they get stronger and better as they move along and learn more things and get their finances all lined up and so on. And so they get to be better buyers as they go along. But it's a pretty harsh situation for buyers.
Well, Donna, I know that your agents represent a lot of buyers and sellers in the D.C. area. So, are there any characteristics of the buyers who win that you can share with us?
Probably, Stephen, they're winning because they've had some losses previous to the win. In other words, they've been through a couple of losses and they understand that the advice that their real estate agent gave them in the beginning and the way they predicted what would happen, in fact, is true. So they've gone ahead and tightened up their finances, and they have gone to their parents and said, could you give us a gift letter for this amount of money so that we can go in non-contingent, and several other things that they're willing to do at that point because they see that all these things are going to have to be done in order for them to get a house.
And now, Donna, let's talk about the other side of the transaction. Sellers in today's market. Starting with the good news that anyone who puts a good house on the market at the right price can expect a very quick sale, correct?
Yes, a quick sale and a very satisfying one, too. You'll get what you want.
That's wonderful. And in your market, how fast are homes getting under contract?
Well, it's a matter of days, really. And the only reason it could be maybe 3 or 4 days instead of 1 day, and I am serious about that, is because the agents and the sellers are saying, let's wait till all the offers come in. And they don't want to wait an excessive period of time because buyers are very used to putting their offer in and knowing in a day or so whether they're going to get that property or not. So it's a very fast-moving market.
Well, Donna, when we talk about sellers, it's just amazing. I mean, they can call all the shots except finding their next home. Is that hard in your area?
Yes, because then they become buyers. And so they have to live through that part of the transaction where they are not in control. And they're on the other side of the fence.
And what about the timing of it? If I am selling one house and I want to buy another one, Donna, what would you recommend as far as what I do first and when I do it?
Well, I think you have to look at your cash reserves and get your loan all lined up. And now pre-approvals with the bank are so strong that they're almost fail-safe. You're going to get the loan. Even though you already have a loan on your existing property, you're going to have to be able to show that there won't be any strings attached to the sale of your existing property.
Well, Donna, I really appreciate you joining us on the show today and sharing your advice, your insights, and your perspectives on buying and selling in today's red-hot market. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
You are so welcome. Donna Evers, broker-owner of Evers & Company Real Estate in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. And now it's time for a special segment here on Real Estate Today, Hot or Not, Pandemic Edition. Home design elements are more important now than ever, as we all find ourselves still staying home so much. And Hot or Not is here to help, connecting you with the trends that will help make your home a dream home in today's world. Joining us now with Hot or Not is Melissa Dittman-Tracy, author of Realtor Magazine's popular Styled, Staged, and Sold blog. Melissa, welcome to Real Estate Today.
Hi, Stephen. It's great to be joining you.
I am so glad you're here. So, Melissa, let's talk about swings, swing chairs on the back deck or the front porch. In today's world, hot or not?
Hot. These can be a perfect addition to any outdoor space. If you have a pergola or a covered back patio, you can mount one to the ceiling. Or you can get a movable frame to hang one and place it anywhere you want. On a front porch, we're noticing a trend of swing sofas hung from ropes that look like they're floating in the air. They are then decorated with plush cushions and pillows that are really adding a welcoming touch and added curb appeal.
Oh, Melissa, that sounds so nice. And now, since the pandemic, we've heard so much about the home buying rush to the suburbs or the countryside for people looking for more space. And that makes me wonder, what about the great big, well-manicured lawns? Are they hot or not?
Not. Stephen, homeowners really are giving up the idea of an untouched green space. Instead, they're maximizing every square inch and creating several entertaining areas within their backyard. So, how are more homeowners making use of their lawns? Gardening has become a huge hobby since the pandemic. Fire pit areas, the popularity of these spaces continues to grow for creating cozy campfires. Pergolas are sectioning off spaces for intimate seating areas or for outdoor kitchens, and pools and hot tubs. These have seen a rush with sales tripling since the pandemic. Also, fences, whether it's for sectioning off that lawn for the new family pet or for some added privacy, fences also are growing in demand.
Melissa, that sounds just plain wonderful. And I want to thank you for being on the show this week because you always help make home more beautiful. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Stephen. And for more home design inspiration, be sure to follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Housing Muse.
Real Estate Today, because you love real estate.
And now, one of the hottest real estate topics, ever. Mortgages. Today's mortgage interest rates are still super low. And locking in right now for a home purchase or a refinance could help set you up for life. So, let's get an up-to-the-minute status report on home loans with an expert. Joining us now is Glenn Brunker, president of Ally Home, the mortgage division of one of the nation's biggest financial institutions, Ally Financial Incorporated. Glenn, welcome to Real Estate Today.
Well, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
We are delighted you're here. So, Glenn, I can only imagine how busy is the mortgage business right now.
I tell you, it's been a very strong ride over the last several years. We are seeing it slow a bit, but still at very, very strong levels from a historical perspective. The industry still grew the first quarter of this year by 3% in terms of origination volume, and then obviously on top of an explosive year last year.
That is absolutely the case. I know that purchasing has been happening from coast to coast at a rapid pace. Now, how about refinancing?
You know, we continue to see purchase money growing, just like you mentioned. Year on year, it's actually up about 13%, and still, even the last few weeks, up 1% sequentially. We're seeing our refinance volumes down about 30 to 35% versus, say, levels last year. But again, from an historical perspective, still at very healthy levels.
Interesting. So, Glenn, if I'm interested in purchasing a home or refinancing my home, how well qualified do I have to be to get the absolute rock bottom mortgage interest rates?
You know, it's quite interesting. It's a misperception out there in the market today that qualification requirements have actually worsened through the pandemic. In fact, when you look back at the various guidelines from the government agencies, we're actually seeing very minimal to really no material changes in underwriting guidelines. We're still seeing the same levels of qualification requirements as we did, say, pre-pandemic. And typically what you see there is around, FICOs as low as 620.
Okay.
Still could get you into a home and at very respectable interest rates. And then also, the traditional qualifying ratios from a debt to income at the old 28-36. We've seen the agencies go as high as, low 40s, mid 40s. But again, I think the qualifying rates and requirements are still just as opportunistic as they were pre-pandemic today.
You mentioned the 2836. Back in the day, I remember that well because that was the qualifying ratio. But now you can have much more debt than that. That's a really interesting point, Glenn.
Yes, you can. Pretty much they look at compensating factors and there's a greater level of flexibility. And as long as you have stable employment, stable income, good trending, good reserves, I've seen ratios on the back end as high as the mid 40s, even potentially approaching the higher 40s.
So, Glenn, as a mortgage professional, tell us, in your view, what's ahead? How long will the rates be this low, and what can we expect for the rest of the year?
I believe that rates are on a slow trend upward. However, I'm in the camp that I think we'll see rates accelerate a quarter to a half point, but I think we're in a trading range of somewhere in that 3.25 to 3.5 on the note rate side through end of year.
That is such great information. And Glenn, as a mortgage professional, I really appreciate you coming on the show today and explaining to everyone listening what's happening in mortgages right now. Thank you, Glenn.
Well, thank you. My pleasure.
You are so welcome. Glenn Brunker, president of Ally Home, the mortgage division of one of the nation's biggest financial institutions, Ally Financial Incorporated.
Real Estate Today, filling your toolbox with real estate information every week.
As we continue our in-depth look at where we stand, we have a special report on how individual states are recovering from the pandemic. Overall, just about half of the United States population has received at least one shot of the vaccines, which is great news. But when you look at health, travel, and their economies, Some states are recovering much faster than others. It's all in a new report from WalletHub, examining states that are recovering the quickest from COVID-19. Let's talk about it now with Jill Gonzalez, Senior Analyst at WalletHub. Jill, welcome to Real Estate Today.
Thanks for having me back.
We are so glad you're here. So, Jill, your new report, states that are recovering the quickest from COVID-19. Tell us about that.
Well, this is something that we've been updating about every couple weeks as new data comes in. Because even though the U.S. is making progress as a whole, some states are just recovering from the pandemic much faster than others. So to really determine the states that are having the most successful recoveries, we looked at all 50 states and D.C. across 22 metrics, and we update this accordingly.
So, what is the number one state in America that's recovering from COVID?
South Dakota is recovering the quickest, and that makes sense because South Dakota is pretty much the only state that did not shut down. It didn't require businesses to shut down. It didn't even require schools to be not in person anymore. So that kind of makes sense that it recovered the quickest because it slowed down the least.
I see. And how about number two, Jill?
Number two, also in the Midwest, you'll notice that a lot here is Iowa, specifically when it comes to, that leisure and travel category. Iowa is not necessarily a big destination. So because of that, its sectors were not as affected. And that is a silver lining here.
And number three, Jill, pushes us farther out west.
Number three is Idaho. Again, some of the same underlying things here. Leisure and travel, not super affected. But when it comes to the economy there, especially because it's so agricultural and so steeped in manufacturing, those two things, just really did not slow down during the pandemic.
How about number four, Jill?
Number four, we go back to the Midwest. It is Nebraska. Again, a lot of the same types of things here. So it luckily has business sectors that were able to thrive during the pandemic.
And Jill, as we mentioned, you're ranking these states on three broad criteria: COVID health, leisure and travel, and the economy and labor market. Number five is number one in COVID health, although not in leisure and travel or economy. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Alaska did the best here for its health numbers. So for some time now, it has had some of the lowest rates in terms of hospitalizations and deaths. It had a higher vaccination rate as well. So that's why it is recovering as one of the quicker states.
I see. And Jill, whenever you rank all the states, of course, some have to end up towards the bottom. And so the bottom five would be the District of Columbia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. Tell me, what common elements drop all those locations to the bottom of the list?
Well, you'll notice that there's certainly a regional trend. These are mostly northeastern states, which were hit very hard by the pandemic in all ways. So you still see a lot of health numbers that could be doing better. When it comes to leisure and travel, you think of a lot of major cities in these places. DC itself, you have two big cities in Pennsylvania. You have New York City, of course. So all of those places, not only seeing less in terms of domestic and international tourists, but also a lot of people moving out.
And Jill, something I'd like to just underline is that WalletHub did find that things are overall much better now than they were. But some states are recovering faster than others.
Absolutely. The unemployment rate nationwide has dropped to 6%. That's from its high of about 15%. And as of early May, about a third of the population has been fully vaccinated. And that number is going to grow as well. So as we see that number continue, we're going to see recovery overall, both health-wise and economy-wise, start to do better.
As they say, the light at the end of the tunnel. And Jill, I really want to thank you for being on the show today and sharing WalletHub's latest study, States That Are Recovering the Quickest from COVID-19. Thank you, Jill.
Anytime.
Jill Gonzalez, Senior Analyst at Wallet Hub. Coming up next week on Real Estate Today, We Got the House, a special show filled with winning buyer strategies in today's super competitive real estate market. Strategies designed to win in a bidding war, to make the seller pick your offer and leave the others behind. In short, strategies designed to smoke the competition and get you the keys to your brand new home. We Got the House is next week, right here on Real Estate Today. And until then, from all of us here at Real Estate Today, stay healthy, stay safe, and thank you for listening.
Real Estate Today is playing right now everywhere you get your favorite podcasts. A new episode of the best real estate podcast in America drops every Friday. And when you subscribe, you'll never miss an episode. The Real Estate Today podcast, because knowledge is power.